Mike, you acknowledged a year ago during this time just the magnitude and the pressure of the situation because it's the flagship program here at the university. What's the level of pressure on you now that you're in your second coaching search in 15 months?
I'm the AD at the University of Tennessee. This comes with the territory. I think it's to be expected. The SEC is the most powerful conference in America as it relates to exposure, fan support, dollars, finances, all those kind of things. I knew what I was getting into when I accepted this job 7 years ago, and it hasn't changed. There's been an opportunity over the last 16 months to be more active in that regard, but it hasn't changed.
Given the timing, Mike, of this situation, if you're not able to land that coach that you really would desire, is there a chance that you could have an interim coaching the football team?
No. We're going to hire a full-time coach. I don't know who's next. I'm sorry. I need to quit directing questions and let you do it, John. I'm sorry. Yeah, Wes.
Do you view this as a special circumstance because of Lane's prior relationship with Southern Cal, or
Yeah.
are you worried about any sort of perception that Tennessee's not the job it was?
No, I don't. This is clearly I believe if Southern Cal job had not come open and he had not been offered the job, he'd be here coaching this morning, getting ready for an official visit weekend. I truly believe that. Could that be? I can't. Can that be proven? No. But that's my feeling based upon my knowledge.
You talked about the years that former majors were here. This was what they considered their home, and they're all, the head job here. Do you put any more emphasis or priority on finding someone who finds Tennessee their end home?
Well, I think this is a destination job. If that answers your question, I mean, I think that this is a place that someone would want to come and work for many, many years. Whatever that looks like. I guess depending on the age of the person and success and all those kind of things. And so we want someone that wants to be here and understands that this is a place that you can be for a long, long time. It's a great university, getting better every day academically, a wonderful place to raise your family, and it's deserving of someone who wants to be here for a long time. I don't necessarily think that's a specific requirement, but I'm not willing to tie down who we want to hire specifically. I'm out there to get the best candidate, whatever that may look like.
Mike, could you foresee a scenario whereabout Philip Fulmer becomes a candidate?
No.
Mike, to your comments to Chris about it being a destination job, this is obviously not becoming quickly not a destination profession in terms of longevity for coaches.
Right.
How do you protect the university and yourself financially? Obviously, if you had to make a move with Lane, it would have cost you $7 million this year. He leaves and it's $800,000 or $1 million for him to leave. How does the university, can you protect yourself better? Is that something you'll do differently?
I think that you can protect yourself to a certain extent, Brent, but the reality is I don't think there's any amount of money on a coach's buyout on the other end that's going to keep them from leaving if they truly want to leave. Because most of the time they're going to a place that's willing to help them make that buyout. I don't know if this is still the case or not, but I know at one time when Jeremy and I were talking, he mentioned the fact that he didn't have buyouts on his coaches from that standpoint because he felt like, if you don't want to be here, we don't want you here. And that's kind of how I feel right now, to be honest with you. If you don't want to be at the University of Tennessee, then you can make that choice to do something different. The buyout in Lane's situation was $1 million, declining to $200,000 per year, and so thus that was the $800,000.
I'd like to follow up his question on Philip. There was a report out this morning that the university, in whatever capacity, has already reached out to Philip. Is that true?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mike, are you aware of any coaches other than Ed Orgeron and Lane Kiffin going with Lane, or anybody else that's left the staff?
No, not this time. We actually had a meeting with our coaching staff at 10 a.m., the folks that are here, and recruiting interns and all those folks, and everybody was present and accounted for except for Coach Reeves, and he was traveling, and he came back in, and I talked to him after his arrival back on campus.
And if Kippy goes and visits anybody in their home or anything, if you hire somebody else, can they go again to visit?
Well, that's going to be a moot point, hopefully, Wes, because hopefully this is going to get done before recruiting is live again.
When is it live again?
Sunday.
Mike, even after you had decided that Kippy was going to be your interim, had this taken place, did you actually think it was going to take place at any time?
I thought the possibility was there. I mean, I didn't know, I don't know Mike Garrett's thought processes, and so I didn't know who he was going to try to hire. But I certainly thought that Lane could possibly be a candidate. So I didn't ever put it out of the back of my mind as a possibility.
Did Lane Kiffin collect his, quote, longevity bonus?
Yes. The longevity bonus was based upon him completing the conclusion of the regular season. and if he were in place at December 31st.
Just to follow up on the midterm enrollees, you said if they're on campus at 12:01, the first day of classes, that's
And-
the determining factor, so it really doesn't matter whether they went to class or not, they are here.
That's correct.
Locked in.
Contrary to what they were told by someone else.
They were locked in at 12:01 this morning.
That's correct.
And we
So that
could have a
means-
waiver in that situation, Mike, or use your discretion, is that correct?
We could have a waiver.
I mean, could you not decide to let them out of their commitment?
There's no intention to do that.
So that means the 8 you met with today are locked.
They're enrolled at the University of Tennessee.
Mike, what would you, there's no rules against a coach leaving and recruiting prospects he recruited from another school.
Yeah.
What would you, though, expect from a departed head coach who takes a recruiting coordinator?
Well, I think that from my perspective, you're talking about then calling the student athletes that they had recruited? You know, nothing surprises me anymore, Dave, okay? And you do more of the recruiting work than I know about, so you probably know more what's going on out there. I still don't think that that's really the right thing to do, and I've already alluded to that a minute ago.
Anybody else?
In retrospect, do you think you made a mistake hiring Lane Kiffin?
No, I don't. I believe that Lane did a really nice job for us as a coach, on the field coach, and in recruiting. Did a lot of nice things in that regard. And so at the time, I've reflected back on this a lot over the last 24 hours, and I think it was the right decision at the time. You know, it's easier to reflect back, you know, than to project forward sometimes. But I've thought about that a lot over the last 24 hours.
Mike, there's been some public NCAA issues. Do you feel like you can tell a candidate everything's going to be fine if you accept this job at Tennessee?
Yeah, based upon what I know to date, yeah, I feel pretty comfortable telling them what I know, and I know quite a bit about where all that is. And I think that, you know, based upon my knowledge of what's out there right now, that they can come here and feel good about their ability to continue to do the things they need to do to be successful.
Mike, do you have a preference on prior head coaching experience?
No.
What's your reaction to the reaction by the students last night and their displeasure with Coach Kiffin?
I wasn't here, so I wasn't witness to it. I don't know. I mean, if they were displeased, they had every right to be. Yeah, I think, you know, students are a large part of this campus, and they're a lot of our emotion in sporting events and football games. And, you know, heck, I might have been out there with you if I'd been here.
You talked about the model that you use with Kiffin and then paying the staff a lot of money. Is that a similar model that you'd want to implement?
I think every situation is unique. I've said it I don't know how many times. For me, I look at this as I hate to be so cold about it, but I look at it as a line item, and you're trying to pay for experience and the coaches that they hire and all those kind of things. And the way I look at it is, okay, we're going to pay the head coach this, and what does the rest of that line item look like for their assistant coaches? So every coach that I talk to, I'll be visiting with them about what is your assistant coaching scheme look like? Who you projecting that you would bring with you? What are the dollars necessary to hire the best coaches you can hire to bring the University of Tennessee, and challenging them, because we now have had that model out there to hire the best possible coaches they can hire. Realizing that in some cases you may have a head coach that has a higher salary and their pool would be less for assistant coaches than in the case of this particular staff.
Would it be reasonable to assume you would pursue some of the same people on your previous list?
I don't think there are very many of them left. Right?
Is that a no?
I'm not going to tell you anything about candidates.
Couple more here, couple more here.
A couple of things. Lane was very brash in his 14 months here. Looking back on it, is that something you're comfortable with? You're looking for bravado this next time. Is that something you would like to get away from? And secondly, what could you give any kind of insight on the conversation when Lane told you he was leaving, what you said back to him?
Sure, yeah.
What the
Yeah, two things. First of all, as it relates to qualities of a head coach, I think I've already addressed that a little bit in my answer to Beth, other than to say I want a head coach who is confident in his ability to succeed. Because if you are not confident in your ability to succeed in this league, you will get eaten alive. Okay? On the recruiting trail, as it relates to, you know, coaching these guys up, you have to be confident to be successful in the SEC. Second part, as it relates to our conversations about potentially leaving or whatever, you know, I just said, look, this is the most competitive conference in America. I thought you were a competitive guy. And if you want to be in the most competitive league in America, you need to be here. And if you choose to go somewhere else, that's your prerogative. But our league's separation from the rest of America is only going to grow farther based upon our new television contract.
Having been through this 14 months ago, is there anything you learned from the last hiring experience that you'll take into this? And in this situation, what have you learned from this that you'll use to hire someone else?
Okay, so first of all, specific to the search process. Secondly, for the last few days.
Yeah.
Okay. The search process, I think every search process you go through, you learn a little bit more in terms of analyzing and assessing someone's character traits and abilities and all those kinds of things. And you find out that there are a lot of different flavors of ice cream, so to speak. And you've got to decide which is the best flavor for your particular institution. And one individual that might fit at one school might not fit at another. And so I think it's critical. The more you do this, I think the more comfort level you get. And you don't want to do it very often, okay? Let me clarify that. But you get more comfortable with that. The other thing as it relates to the last few days, I think that on the last few days, I think I did the right thing in asking about his interests. You know, I don't like things like that to lie around and to not talk about it. I'm going to if there's a potential for some kind of interchange and a question, I'm going to confront you about that and ask about that because I'm a guy that wants to have it all out. I would rather know that yes, you have interest and know where we stand than to not know and to be blindsided down the road. And so I'm always going to be aggressive in that regard. And if anything I've learned is I've got to keep doing that because I think it helps to know as much as you can know and get it as quickly as you can get it. That doesn't prevent things from changing, but it prepares you for the inevitable when it does occur. I will tell you, just real quickly, after all this started looking like it was going down, we actually had a major presentation to a corporate partner. And in this particular presentation, the corporate partner was talking to me about who he thought the Southern Cal coach was going to be, and I just kind of went along with it. But I fed him enough information that there was a possibility. We got in the car afterwards, and the guys that were with me, I said, guys, all right, look, I've held this as long as I can because we were getting ready to go to the airport. I've got to make some really confidential phone calls. Coach Kiffin's leaving to go to Southern Cal, and they stopped the car in the middle of the street and they thought I was joking, you know. And so I think it blindsided a lot of people in that regard. And luckily, I wasn't completely blindsided because of the conversation we'd had last Saturday.
Last one, right?
Two things. One, have you had a chance to visit with the players yet? And secondly, whenever you did talk to Lane Kiffin, did he express any displeasures about Tennessee with cold weather, competing in the SEC? Was there anything that was negative about being here?
You know, I think that as it relates to anything that Coach Kiffin said about being here or the SEC, he's the one that needs to answer that. You know, that's a matter of private conversation, and you know, not everybody's happy with everything all the time. You know, but he would need to answer that. As it relates to meeting with the entire team, Jimmy, I have not had a chance to do that. I'm not going to get a chance to do that because we're headed out. Yeah, we're headed out. So my next chance to visit with them will hopefully be standing in front of them with a new head coach. I would have been in front of the team last night, obviously, if I had been in town, but I didn't think having them together at 4 o'clock this morning was a very wise idea. Okay.